Welcome back. The OXI META is a fantastic performance module in 6 HP. It's got all of the effects you need to add energy and to do builds and releases in live performances. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how it works, and we're going to take a listen to some of the effects that you have built in and how you can use them to play live. There we go. It's a very hands-on module. You have 6 scenes, which are different types of performance effects. Space is a reverb effect. Riser is the classic kind of riser with noise effect. Filter is your classic DJ filter that this knob controls. You've got a looper, which grabs a snippet of audio and loops it. A delay effect, which does what it says. It's a delay, and you have different type of delay effects, whether you go right or left on the knob. And then you've got a gator, which is like a stutter effect, which I really like, actually. It's one of my favorite on the device. You can clock the looper, delay, and gators using an external clock input, or you can do your own tap tempo here. The main knob is this big one here, and this is all you need really to play the effects. Just use your finger. It's got a nice notch here in the middle so you can catch the 0 position. But what's even better is this off button here, which lets you disable the effects. So say I turn it on, I hit off, and that cuts out the effect. It bypasses it completely, and I have to turn it back to the 0 position, and you see off flashes again to show I've hit 0 to bring me back to where I started. Finally, we have this control knob here, which pairs up with this control CV input, which gives you control over a parameter to the effect. And each of the effects have a different parameter you can control. And this responds to bipolar modulation. Okay, let's start with the space effect. So you choose the scene you want to use by just pressing the button. It lights up. It's pretty straightforward. And nothing happens when the knob is in the center position. So it's basically bypassed. So let's just play a drum loop here. And if we turn the knob to the right, we start adding your classic long tail reverb. This controls a high pass filter on it. So if we wanted to bring in an element. Now you see my reverb is still active, but if I want to kill it, I hit off and that just kills the reverb. Okay, so let's keep our drums going. Now if I turn the space effect to the left, the knob to the left, we get into a more shimmery reverb, and I can bring the tone up by turning the control knob. So you can see, you can just play this with one hand, your thumb and your forefinger. And then you go back to 0. And you can wash it out completely. And now I brought in a second loop there to throw on top of it. Okay, let's take a look at the riser effect. See there, you can momentarily punch it in. If you had it over here and I had it off, I could punch it in for just a quick transition. Now I want to bring in a kick drum that I have coming out of my fire module here. So let's use the riser. Turn it to the right. And we get a classic reverb noise build up. Play with the filter effect. And again, I can go back to the 0 position. So that's your classic DJ riser effect. Now let's take a listen to the riser when it goes counterclockwise, because then we get something interesting which are called Shepard tones. And these are tones that appear to go up and up indefinitely, but it's actually a very cool effect. Let's take a listen. And I can bring in my percussive elements. wait for the drop. So it's a really, really fun module. Like, I had great fun playing with this. And you can do just instant little kind of twists like that, just to add some interest and energy to your tracks. The clocked effects are the bottom three, the loop, delay, and gator, and they work a little bit differently from the space, riser, and filter in that they set the effect to a division of the clock that comes in here on the clock CV input, or the tap tempo you set here with the tap button. On the clocked effects, the control knob generally controls the rate of applying the effect. So what beat division or what clock division the looper or delay is triggered on. Let's take a look at the loop effect in action. Okay, so we've got just something playing here on warp. I'll just close up the filter there a bit. So we got warp playing here. So turning the knob to the right, we start looping. Start messing up the sound over here. And you hear the loop is playing now. The loop division is controlled by the control knob. So I can get that kind of drill effect, and we can go and bring it out. Nice build effect, especially when you combine it with what I did there, which is where you see you get the control knob. We're going to forward loop. You can hear it on the rhythmic piece where it's speeding up. Well, as we know from the other effects, if we turn the knob to the left, we're going to get something different, and this will be a reverse looper. That's a fun effect as well, so let's try that. Turn it to the left. Reverse looping. We can change the clock division now of the loop length. There we go, that's much better. Okay, so that was the looper. Now, what's the difference between the looper and the delay? Well, the delay is a clock delay that just delays the incoming audio and has a reverb wash in it too. So let's take a look at the effect it has. Again, if we turn the knob this way, we've got a delay with a high pass filter. This way, a delay with a low pass filter. This control knob is going to set the delay division, the clock division, as you would expect. And if we press and hold delay until it's fast looping, this controls the amount of filter applied. So same concept as the looper, and very easy again to play with just one hand. So let's go forward. And you hear the reverb coming in. Nice. And I'm adjusting the clock delay here. I always find the delay one is a little bit more forgiving than the looper. Go this way, we got a low pass filter. Almost to a freeze effect. Nice, nice, nice. I like that. And then bring it back down. Now, the gator is like a kind of a stutter effect. It's got a time division control that, of course, the control knob controls. And then the main knob is controlling what type of gating effect it is. If we turn it to the right, it's got a high pass filter. But if we turn it to the left, it brings in snares. Listen to that. Now, I'm not putting any audio in, and by default, just turn to the left, we start getting this built-in snare sound, which is coming from OXI META. Woo! Nice. So, this gives you a way of just creating that classic sort of like drum roll and ratchet effect, and then bringing something in. So let's play around with it with some audio going through. We'll mute the kick. maybe just dial back the little bit of echo and reverb I have on the warp output here using C legs. Now if we turn to the right, we're getting that gated effect, and the control is the speed of those gates. But if we go to the left, we get those snares coming in. Oh yeah, building it up. It's hard not to just start playing with something like this. There's so much fun to make this video because I just kept jamming away and playing and recording things with it. So that gives you an idea of how the clocked effects work, and they are really fun for those builds and drops. I really like the delay, I really like the gator effect, especially when you go and bring in those snares as well. But use smartly as well the looper, especially the reverse looper, lets you warp and create sound textures which you can then kind of play around with and then bring in additional sounds with. Now let's look at using OXI META as an insert effect. And what I'm going to do is take the output of my pizza oscillator here, patch it into the input on META, and that way only the sound from pizza is going to be affected by the effects on META, and my drums are going to be completely dry. Just a different way of setting it up. There's no one right way to do it, and it really is whatever suits your patch. Now we can use the effects directly on pizza. So let's just take a listen. We have this set to dry here. We'll hit play here, and I'm going to just open up the envelope on pizza. So we could use, for example, the DJ filter if we wanted to do a bit of filtering on the sound, or the low pass filtering. Okay, so let's look at the first case, which is we're going to use the riser with the Shepard tone mode on the left side of the main knob to bring in drums. So off we go, we hit play, there's our dry sound. We start to bring the riser effect in. And I could of course be modifying the sound ever so slightly, opening the envelope on pizza. And then when I'm ready, I go back to my dry sound. So I'm able to keep my drums dry while I affect my audio path. We can use the reverse looper now to actually allow us to build in the new sound. Let's experiment with that. We'll start with our bass sound. Bring in the reverse looper. I can adjust the sound like I'm going to make it rhythmic. Okay, now let's use the gator effect to bring in a sound. And I'm going to start this, and this would be a great way to kind of bring a new sound into a performance. We'll just start with a very plucky envelope here, barely even an envelope at all, over on pizza. And we're going to start with our snare roll effect on the gator by slowly building it up as we open the envelope. So we can slowly open the envelope on the oscillator. Got the filter, and there we go. Just a couple of examples of how you can use META as an inline or insert effect in line with an oscillator. Okay, we've got the knobs for manual control, but what about if we want to do some automated control using control voltage? So we have two inputs. We have a control input here, and we've got an FX input here, which map to the control and FX knobs. and the CV is added to the knob values as far as I can tell. The manual's not too clear on that. Now, rather than go through each effect and kind of show you the effect that putting CV control of it has, I want to show you how I would use it in a more performance-oriented technique. Let's use the Bafako Morph Fader, which is like a macro controller. It gives me 4 outputs and a slider. I can fade between different values. What I'm going to do is I'm going to patch the control CV input to the first output of the Morph Fader. What I want to do is use the Morph Fader to bring in drums, and I also want to change the detune amount on the warp oscillator over here, which will change the sound coming out of the oscillator. And I have the value set for the A and B ranges here. Okay, so now we have output channel 2 patched into detune here on warp, output channel 1 from Morph Fader going into the control, and the control is going to modulate the rate of the snare repeats, because we're going to go to the left here on the knob. So let's take a listen. So we'll bring in the snare effect, the snare gator. Now we start to slide the fader over. Because I'm changing both the detune amount and the snare roll, I get a kind of a much better effect that I can do just by doing it manually. So you could patch this to multiple places in your setup. So you're able to use this to control, for example, filter cutoffs or send effects as well. Let's do the same thing, but this time we're going to use the control to control the riser effect. So we'll try it over here. We'll do the same thing with the riser effect. So we'll go Shepard tone riser. Now I bring the fader across. Change the sound to match the Shepard tones. And then I can play away with the sound over here. So the trick is combining the right changes on your oscillator, say for example detuning it or changing a filter setting with the right change over here, which in this case is the riser filter, and that creates a very, very interesting, much more dynamic effect. Now let's look at CV control over, for example, the delay effect here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the FX control here to control how this knob changes. And if you remember, if we turn the knob to the left, we get a delay effect with a low pass filter. And of course, I've also patched it in here into detune on warp. Just take out the kick, and now we get a much more dramatic build of the filter. There's me adjusting the control value, which is the division of the clock division. Now let's look at modulating both the FX amount for the main knob and the control knob here on the delay effect. And we're going to use the number 1 and 2 channels here again on Morph Fader. Take a listen now. We get a much more dramatic filter effect, which is actually a really nice kind of way of using it. And I'm not even having to turn any of the knobs on Meta. Builds. It does seem to just take a moment to detect that change. I'm not too sure why that happens. Could be the CV value has to register. But it actually is a really cool way of combining these effects and finding new effects on the device that aren't kind of built in by default. So far, we've looked at using Meta as a very kind of dance or techno-style performance effect with classic bills and drops. But what about if we slow it down a little bit and bring it back into maybe a more ambient space or more chill beats? Can we use Meta as a sort of ambient performance effect? I'm going to use the pizza oscillator for this. Just going to patch in again the output of the main to the left in here on Meta, and I have Meta coming into this channel here on my mixer. Once again, we're going to use the morph fader from Bafako. And what I'm going to do is we'll use that to morph the control amount, say, on the Meta. Because I'm going to use the delay effect, which adds a little bit of reverb. And we'll also use the second channel on morph fader to modulate the control input here on Pizza. And I have Pizza in VCA mode, which means the built-in VCA is controlled using the control input, and the decay length of the envelope it generates is set by control, so I'm able to modulate that. I've also got OXI here in stochastic sequencer mode, so we'll get a nice kind of random scale playing, but all very much in key. Let's take a listen. So if I turn control, you see we can open up the envelope, so that's fine. We'll just leave it nice and plucky. We have it in delay. Let's bring it over and start bringing the delay in. Remember, this is delay with high pass filter. Not too much. And now we can start bringing in, sliding the fader. This is now modulating control like we showed in the last section. Opening up the envelope in Pizza. Maybe we make the effect go a little deeper. Bring in a kick. Now, we're not fixed to just, of course, using these fixed voltages out of morph fader. Let's take a look at taking some voltages out of PAMs. And what I've got here is a kind of a squared off envelope, which will ramp up to a voltage, hold it, and ramp down. That's setting the tone of the reverb. We can also play around with some of the other effects. Let's try the riser. Now again, we're modulating the riser effect slowly here using output 7 on PAMs. See here, I have it patched into control, which means the riser comes in and out. Now, by combining the effects with other effects you might have in your rack, we can get some pretty interesting sounds coming out of it. So let's actually try that. Now, again, we're just going to stick to using Pizza here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the output of this and I'm going to send it into C legs on send 1 here. So that's going to go in there. And we can start combining these carefully. Again, the snare there is just coming from the Meta. And I just got the delay frozen over here. Bit of noise coming in here. Watching my drive. So all this is captured out of the looping buffer here in C legs, combined with the gating snare effect here, and used very subtly in the Meta with the control being modulated here. And you notice as I'm modulating, we're getting those ratchet snares, which I really like because it adds a bit of variety and change to this. Repeating the same thing now by doing reverse loop. And again, sending it into the delay. It's hard not to get really into this kind of stuff. We're just reverse looping the output of Pizza through Meta, modulating the control, and then mixing that in, the dry signal from Meta, into C legs, looping that into the delay in C legs, which has this lovely feedback loop with some reverb in it, and then going back onto the main. You could have a lot of fun with this. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's overview of Meta. On this more mellow note, I think we'll finish up. It's been a good video. I've had a lot of fun making it. It's taken me a long time to make it because I kept playing with Meta. It's just so much fun to jam on. I think you can agree. By all means, let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions or comments, put them down below in the comment section. I love hearing from people. Do my best to answer everything. And subscribe so you can stay up to date with new videos. I will be doing a walkthrough of this full performance case in advance of KnobCon, as well as deep dives on some MIDI things like MIDI thing, this TRS bridge, and also a bit more on sound design for drums here on Fire. Thanks for watching.